They will never be like me. Margaret Hale didn't know yet that those words would cost her the only person she had left. At 62 years old, she stood in her pristine living room, her belly swollen to an impossible size, stretching the delicate fabric of her cream-colored blouse. Her breathing was shallow, uneven, wrong. 8-year-old Lily sat motionless on the velvet couch, staring at nothing. She didn't cry anymore. Not because she was brave, but because she had learned that tears only made adults uncomfortable. Outside, neighbors whispered behind manicured hedges. Inside, silence ruled everything. Margaret Hale was admired throughout their Connecticut town, a self-made businesswoman, a pillar of strength who had built an empire from nothing. Awards lined her office walls. Magazine features praised her determination. But admiration doesn't keep secrets from eating you alive. 3 years earlier, Margaret had buried her greatest failure. Her daughter Sarah, 31 years old, had complained about exhaustion that wouldn't lift and pain that wouldn't fade. "You're just tired," doctors had said. "It's hormones," friends insisted. "You need to be stronger," her husband demanded. By the time anyone truly listened, Sarah was gone. Margaret took custody of Lily immediately. This was her chance to make things right, to prove she could be the caregiver she had failed to be. But she replaced presence with protection. She confused listening with controlling. She mistook structure for love. When the medical condition began 6 months ago, a rare abdominal growth doctor struggled to diagnose. Margaret made a decision that would fracture everything. She told Lily she was pregnant, with 4 babies. At first, the lie seemed protective. What child needed to know? About tumors and uncertain diagnoses? But Lily was already noticing things Margaret didn't realize she'd noticed. Medical bills hidden under magazines, phone calls that ended abruptly when she entered rooms, words floating through walls late at night, mass, risk, uncertain. Margaret, scheduling appointments during school hours, returning home exhausted with eyes red from something other than joy. The pregnancy story didn't add up, but Lily said nothing. Because asking questions had never kept anyone safe. The announcement spread through town like poison. Church members stopped calling. Neighbors avoided eye contact during morning walks. Relatives held hushed conversations that ended whenever Margaret appeared. One Sunday afternoon, Margaret's sister-in-law suggested something that made Lily's heart stop. "Perhaps Lily should stay with us for a while," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false concern. "This situation is unusual. The child shouldn't be exposed to such stress." Margaret remained silent, sipping her tea. That silence told Lily everything she needed to know. At Jefferson Elementary School, things grew worse. Children whispered during recess. Teachers looked at her with uncomfortable pity. During lunch, Tommy Richardson asked loudly if her grandma was going to explode. Everyone laughed. Lily stopped eating in the cafeteria after that. She spent lunch periods hiding in the library between tall shelves where no one could find her. Where no one would ask questions she couldn't answer. But the worst part came 2 weeks later when Mrs. Patterson, her kind-eyed teacher who always noticed everything, pulled her aside after class. "Lily, is everything okay at home?" Lily looked up at the one adult who genuinely cared and made a decision. That would haunt her. "Everything's perfect," she lied, forcing a smile. "Grandma's just tired from the babies." Mrs. Patterson's eyes softened with relief. She believed her. Lily had just protected Margaret by lying, just like her mother probably had. The pattern was repeating. If this already feels uncomfortable, it's because you've seen this before. Subscribe. Some patterns repeat until someone breaks them. At home, the house remained immaculate. Floors polished to perfection, fresh flowers in crystal vases, everything in its designated place, everything except Lily's childhood. That had no place in Margaret Hale's perfect home. Night after night, Lily lay awake listening to Margaret's labored breathing through the walls. She wondered if this was how her mother had sounded before she disappeared. One evening, Margaret stood at her bedroom window watching Lily play alone in the backyard. The child pushed herself on the swing with no joy, just mechanical motion. Margaret felt something crack inside her chest, but she pushed it down. She had always been good at that, pushing things down until they disappeared, or until they exploded. The truth was coming, and when it arrived, it would destroy what little trust remained between them. But the truth wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what Lily would hear 3 nights later. A conversation never meant for her ears, words spoken in whispers that would teach her exactly how expendable children become when adults make mistakes. What did they say about her that made Margaret go silent for the rest of the night? And why did Lily start packing her bag the very next morning? 3 nights later, Lily learned that love has conditions. She wasn't supposed to be awake. It was past 10, and Margaret believed she was asleep upstairs. But Lily had been lying in bed for over an hour, listening to the murmur of adult voices drifting up from the living room. Victoria's voice, Uncle Robert's voice, and Margaret's, quieter than usual. Lily crept to the top of the stairs, her bare feet silent on the carpeted steps. She sat in the darkness, knees pulled to her chest, and listened. 4 babies at your age, Margaret. It's madness. Victoria's tone was sharp, cutting. And that child downstairs will bear the burden when this all falls apart. Silence. Then Uncle Robert's voice, careful and measured. We need to discuss contingencies. If something happens to you during whatever this is, Lily becomes our responsibility. That's not fair to us, Victoria added quickly. Lily's breath caught. Margaret's teacup clinked against the saucer. That was the only sound she made. She's already damaged. Goods, Victoria continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried perfectly up the stairs. Look at what happened to Sarah. Mental illness runs in families, you know. The last thing we need is Victoria. Margaret's voice was ice. But she didn't defend Lily. She didn't say Victoria was wrong. She just said her sister-in-law's name, then went silent again. Lily pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from making a sound. Her chest felt like it was caving in, but she kept listening. Had Margaret just agreed with them? I'm simply being practical, Victoria said. If you're incapacitated, we'll need to make arrangements. Perhaps a boarding situation would be best, just until... Until what? Margaret's voice was barely audible. Until she's old enough to be independent. Lily was 8 years old. Independent meant alone. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Margaret, we're not trying to be cruel. We're trying to help you face reality. This pregnancy is none of your concern, Margaret finally said. But her voice lacked conviction. The conversation continued, but Lily stopped listening. She stood slowly, mechanically, and walked back to her room on legs that didn't feel connected to her body. She closed the door without a sound. Then she sat on the edge of her bed and stared at nothing. Damaged goods. Mental illness runs in families. A boarding situation. The words circled in her mind like vultures. If you've ever been the child nobody wanted to deal with, you already know what happens next. Subscribe. Because Lily's about to make a decision no 8-year-old should have to make. That night, Lily didn't sleep. Instead, she made a plan. She pulled her small purple backpack from the closet and began packing with the precision of someone twice her age. A sweater too big for her. 3 pairs of socks. Her mother's photograph, the only one Margaret hadn't put in storage. And her broken stuffed bear, the one her mother had given her when she was 4. She folded a piece of notebook paper and wrote in shaky pencil, "If Grandma doesn't wake up, I will. Take care of the babies. I won't complain. I won't be a burden. Please don't send me away." She read it 3 times, then tucked it into the front pocket of the backpack. At school the next day, Lily sat through classes like a ghost. Mrs. Patterson tried to catch her eye during reading time, but Lily kept her gaze down. During recess, she didn't play. She sat on the bench near the fence and watched other children laugh and chase each other. She tried to remember what that felt like. Tommy Richardson ran past her, then stopped. "Hey, Hale, did your grandma pop yet?" His friends laughed. Lily looked up at him with eyes so empty it made him take a step back. "Not yet," she said quietly. "But when she does, I'll be the one cleaning it up." Not you. Tommy's smile faltered. He didn't have a comeback for that. Lily went back to staring at nothing. That evening, Margaret was in the kitchen, preparing dinner when Lily came downstairs with her backpack. Going somewhere? Margaret asked without turning around. Just organizing, Lily lied. Margaret nodded, stirring something on the stove. They ate dinner in silence. Margaret asked about school. Lily said it was fine. Margaret mentioned a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Lily nodded. Normal conversation. Perfectly hollow. After dinner, Lily went upstairs and hid the backpack under her bed. She changed into her pajamas, brushed her teeth, and climbed into bed. At 9:30, she heard Margaret's bedroom door close. At 10:15, she heard Margaret's labored breathing through the wall. At 11:07, Lily got out of bed and retrieved the backpack. She sat on the floor with it in her lap, running her fingers over the straps. Not tonight, she told herself, but soon, because Lily had learned something crucial from that. Overheard conversation. Adults don't fight for children who make their lives complicated. And Margaret's silence had been the loudest answer of all. What Lily didn't know was that Margaret was awake too, sitting on the edge of her own bed, staring at her hands. She had heard Lily's footsteps. She had heard the closet door. She had heard everything. But she didn't go check on her. Because Margaret Hale had spent her entire life believing that strength meant handling things alone. She didn't realize yet that sometimes strength means asking for help before it's too late. And it was already too late. Why didn't Margaret defend Lily when Victoria called her damaged goods? What will happen when the backpack is discovered? And what did Margaret's doctor say during that appointment she hasn't told anyone about yet? Margaret found the backpack at 2:17 in the morning. She hadn't been looking for it. She'd been looking for answers to questions she was too afraid to ask out loud. The doctor's appointment had gone worse than expected. Dr. Harrison had used words like immediate surgery and complications, and you need to tell your family the truth. Margaret had nodded, thanked him, and driven home in complete silence. Now she stood in Lily's doorway watching the child sleep. Or pretend to sleep. Margaret couldn't tell anymore. The moonlight coming through the window illuminated Lily's face, peaceful, innocent, unaware that the adults in her life were planning her future. Like she was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. Margaret took a step into the room. That's when she saw it. The purple backpack, partially hidden under the bed. One strap visible in the moonlight. Something about it felt wrong. Margaret moved quietly across the room and knelt down, her swollen belly making the movement difficult. She pulled the backpack out slowly, careful not to wake Lily. It was packed. Her heart stopped. Clothes, socks, a photograph, the old stuffed bear with the missing eye, and in the front pocket, a folded piece of paper. Margaret's hands trembled as she unfolded it. If Grandma doesn't wake up, I will take care of the babies. I won't complain. I won't be a burden. Please don't send me away. The words were written in shaky pencil, some letters backwards, some crossed out and rewritten. An 8-year-old's handwriting, an adult's desperation. Margaret read it 3 times before the full weight of it crushed her. Lily thought she was going to die. Lily thought she'd be sent away. Lily thought she had to earn the right to stay. The paper slipped from Margaret's fingers. What had she done? She looked at Lily, who was now awake, sitting up, in bed, staring at her with eyes that held no surprise, only resignation. You weren't supposed to find that yet, Lily whispered. Yet. Not, you weren't supposed to find it. Yet. As if this was inevitable. As if Lily had been planning for this moment. Lily. Margaret's voice broke. It's okay. Grandma. Lily's voice was too calm, too controlled. I heard what Aunt Victoria said, about me being damaged, about the boarding situation. I don't want to be a burden, so I made a plan. Margaret felt something inside her shatter. You heard that? Lily nodded. 3 nights ago, I was at the top of the stairs. And you've been carrying this alone for 3 days? Another nod. Margaret wanted to scream. She wanted to gather Lily in her arms, and apologize for every silence, every moment she chose control over connection. But her body wouldn't move. "There are no babies," Margaret heard herself say. The words came out flat, clinical, wrong. Lily blinked. "What?" "There are no babies, Lily. There never were. If watching someone's childhood end in real time makes you uncomfortable, subscribe, because the worst confessions are the ones that come too late." Lily didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't react at all. She just stared at Margaret with an expression that would haunt her forever. "So I was scared for nothing?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "It's not nothing. I'm sick. There's a growth. You lied to me. I was trying to protect you." "From what?" Lily's voice rose for the first time. "From the truth? From reality? Mom died because nobody listened to her, and now you're doing the exact same thing." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Margaret opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because Lily was right. She had repeated the pattern. She had prioritized her own comfort over Lily's truth. She had chosen silence over honesty, just like everyone had done to Sarah. "Lily, I packed that bag because I thought if I could prove I was useful, you'd want to keep me." Lily's voice cracked. "I thought if I promised to take care of babies that don't even exist, maybe I'd be worth the trouble." Each word was a knife. "You are worth—" "Don't." Lily held up her hand. "Please don't say things you don't mean." Margaret felt her legs giving out. She sat on the edge of Lily's bed, her swollen belly making it difficult to breathe. Or maybe that was the shame. "I heard you stay silent when Aunt Victoria said I was damaged," Lily continued, her voice eerily calm now. "You didn't defend me. You just drank your tea." "I was trying to protect yourself," Lily finished. "I know. That's what everyone does." The room went silent. Outside, wind rustled through the trees. A car passed on the distant road. Normal sounds in a night that had just broken something fundamental between them. Margaret looked at the backpack on the floor, at the note she'd dropped, at the 8-year-old child who had been planning her own displacement because the adults in her life had failed her so completely. "What happens now?" Lily asked. Margaret didn't have an answer, because for the first time in her life, control wasn't an option. The truth was out. The damage was done, and no amount of structure or planning could fix what she'd broken. "I need surgery," Margaret finally said. "Soon, and I should have told you from the beginning." "Will you die?" The question was so direct, so childlike despite everything, that Margaret's heart cracked again. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Maybe." Lily nodded slowly, processing this. Then she did, something Margaret didn't expect. She lay back down, turned to face the wall, and pulled her blanket up to her chin. "You should go back to bed, Grandma," she said quietly. "You need rest for the surgery. No anger, no tears, no demands. Just cold, practiced detachment." Margaret stood slowly, every movement painful. She wanted to say something, anything that would undo the last 10 minutes. But words felt useless now. She left the room, closing the door softly behind her. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and finally let herself break. What Margaret didn't see was Lily awake in the darkness, staring at the wall with dry eyes. The child had learned something tonight that would change her forever. Honesty doesn't heal wounds. Sometimes it just makes them visible. Will Margaret survive the surgery? Or will Lily's worst fear come true? How do you rebuild trust when the foundation was built on lies? And what will Lily do now that she knows the truth changes nothing about how expendable she really is? The next morning, Margaret woke to find Lily already dressed for school. No breakfast, no conversation, just a child moving through the motions like a programmed machine. "Lily, we need to talk about—" "I'll miss the bus," Lily said without looking at her. The door closed softly. Not a slam, not defiance, just efficient distance. Margaret stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the uneaten cereal she'd poured, and realized that silence could be louder than any scream. At school, Mrs. Patterson noticed immediately. Lily had always been quiet, but this was different. This was absence. The child sat at her desk like a placeholder, present but not really there. During math, Mrs. Patterson called on her 3 times before Lily registered the sound of her own name. "Lily, can you solve the problem on the board?" Lily looked up with empty eyes. "I don't know the answer." She hadn't even looked at the problem. Mrs. Patterson's concern deepened, but when she tried to speak to Lily after class, the child simply said, "I'm fine," and walked away. That word again. Fine. The universal code for don't ask me anything real. At lunch, Lily didn't go to the library. She didn't hide. She sat in the cafeteria at an empty table and stared at her sandwich without eating it. Tommy Richardson walked past, saw her, and for once didn't say anything cruel, because even bullies recognize when someone has already been broken. Meanwhile, Margaret sat in Dr. Harrison's office, listening to words that felt like they were coming from underwater. "We're scheduling the surgery for next Friday," he said. "The mass has grown. We can't wait any longer." "And the risks?" Dr. Harrison's pause said everything. "Margaret, at your age with a growth this size, we're looking at significant complications. Recovery will be difficult. You'll need help." Help. Margaret thought about Lily's backpack, about Victoria's suggestions, about the family that saw her granddaughter as a burden. "I understand," she said. But she didn't. She didn't understand how she'd gotten here. 62 years old, facing surgery alone, with an 8-year-old who no longer trusted her. "Do you have someone who can stay with Lily during the procedure? And during recovery?" Margaret nodded. Automatically, another lie. Because calling Victoria would mean admitting defeat. It would mean confirming every cruel thing they'd said about Lily being too much trouble. She'd figure something out. She always did. That evening, Margaret tried again. "Lily, I spoke to the doctor today. The surgery is scheduled for next Friday." Lily looked up from her homework. "Okay. You'll need to stay with someone while I'm in the hospital." "Aunt Victoria?" The name came out flat. Clinical. Margaret's chest tightened. "Would you be comfortable with that?" Lily's expression didn't change. "Does it matter?" "Of course it matters. Your feelings—" "My feelings don't change anything, Grandma." Lily's voice was quiet but sharp. "You're having surgery. I need somewhere to go. Aunt Victoria is the logical choice." Logical. An 8-year-old using the word logical. Margaret felt the distance between them grow wider. "I'm sorry," Margaret said. "For lying. For everything." Lily returned to her homework. "I know." But forgiveness wasn't in her voice. Just acknowledgement. If you've ever apologized to someone who's already stopped expecting better from you, subscribe. Because some damage can't be fixed with words. 3 days passed in careful choreography. Margaret and Lily moved around each other like dancers who'd forgotten the steps. Polite, distant, safe. Victoria came by on Wednesday to discuss arrangements. She sat in the living room, looking at Lily with thinly veiled discomfort. "You'll stay in the guest room," Victoria said to Lily. "Uncle Robert and I have rules. Bedtime at 8. No television on school nights. You'll help with chores." Lily nodded. "And you'll need to be on your best behavior. We're doing your grandmother a favor." Margaret should have said something. Should have defended Lily. Should have told Victoria that housing your niece isn't a favor, it's family. But she stayed silent. Again, Lily saw it. That silence. That familiar pattern. Something in her eyes went colder. After Victoria left, Lily went upstairs without a word. Margaret sat alone, hating herself. On Thursday night, the night before surgery, Margaret tried one more time. She knocked on Lily's door. "Come in." Lily was packing a different bag now. Clothes for her stay at Victoria's. Organized. Methodical. No emotion. "Lily, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry, Grandma." "Then, what are you?" Lily stopped packing and looked at Margaret directly. "I'm learning," she said simply. "Learning what?" "That people who love you can still hurt you. That honesty doesn't mean safety. that I need to protect myself because no one else will. Each word was a precise cut. Margaret sat on the edge of the bed. That's not what I wanted to teach you. I know, but that's what I learned anyway. The truth hung between them. What if I don't wake up? Margaret asked suddenly. Lily's face didn't change. Then Aunt Victoria will probably send me to boarding school like she suggested, and I'll be fine. I'm always fine. The word sounded like a curse now. Margaret reached for Lily's hand, but the child pulled away gently. Not cruelly. Just away. I need to finish packing, Lily said. Margaret stood slowly and walked to the door. She turned back once. Lily was folding a shirt with mechanical precision, her face completely blank. This was what Margaret had created. A child who had learned to feel nothing because feeling everything had become too dangerous. I love you, Lily. Lily paused for just a moment. I know, Grandma. I love you too. The words were true and completely, and empty. Margaret closed the door and walked to her own room. Tomorrow she'd go under anesthesia. Tomorrow she might not wake up. Tomorrow Lily would go to Victoria's house and learn to survive without her. And if Margaret did wake up, what would be waiting for her? A child who had already learned to live without needing her. Will Margaret survive the surgery she's kept secret for too long? What will happen to Lily in Victoria's house while Margaret is unconscious? And has the damage between them already become permanent? Or is there still one moment left that could change everything? Friday. Morning arrived with cruel indifference. Margaret woke at 5, her body heavy with dread. She dressed slowly, each movement deliberate, as if memorizing the act of being alive. Downstairs, Lily sat at the kitchen table, already packed, already ready. You didn't have to wake up this early, Margaret said. I couldn't sleep. The first honest thing Lily had said in days. They sat together in silence, not eating, not speaking, just existing in the same space one last time before everything changed. At 6, Victoria's car pulled into the driveway. Margaret walked Lily to the door, wanting to say something profound, something that would matter if these were her last words. Be good, was all that came out. Lily looked up at her, and for just a second, Margaret saw the little girl who used to run into her arms. Then it was gone. I hope the surgery goes well, Grandma. Polite, distant, safe, Victoria honked. Lily picked up her bag and walked out without looking back. Margaret stood in the doorway until the car disappeared around the corner. Then she got into her own car and drove to the hospital alone. The pre-op room was cold and clinical. A nurse with kind eyes helped Margaret into the gown, took her vitals, and asked the standard questions. Is someone here with you today? No. Is there someone we should call after the procedure? Margaret gave them Victoria's number, hating herself for it. Dr. Harrison came in at 7:30. Are you ready, Margaret? She wanted to say no. She wanted to run back to her car, drive to Victoria's house, and take Lily back. She wanted to undo every lie, every silence, every moment she chose control over connection. I'm ready, she lied. They wheeled her toward the operating room. The fluorescent lights passed overhead in rhythmic intervals. Voices murmured around her. Someone counted backwards. Margaret's last conscious thought was of Lily's empty eyes. Then nothing. Meanwhile, at Victoria's house, Lily sat in the guest room staring at her hands. The room was perfect. Cream walls, floral bedspread, a desk with nothing on it. It felt like a hotel. Temporary, unwelcoming. Victoria knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. Breakfast is at 7. You'll clear your plate and help with dishes. Understood? Yes, Aunt Victoria. And Lily? Victoria's voice softened artificially. I know this is difficult, but we have structure here. Structure is what you need. Structure. The same word Margaret always used. Different house. Same control. Lily nodded, and Victoria left. Alone again, Lily opened her backpack and pulled out the photograph of her mother. Sarah's smile looked back at her. Young, hopeful, unaware of what was coming. Did it hurt? Lily whispered to the photograph. When you realized they weren't listening? The photograph didn't answer. Lily tucked it back into the bag and lay on the unfamiliar bed, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling. At the hospital, Margaret's surgery stretched into its third hour. Dr. Harrison's hands moved with precision, but his face betrayed concern. The mass was larger than the scans had shown, more complicated, more dangerous. "We need more time," he said to his team, blood pressure dropping, heart rate unstable, numbers on machines that determined whether Margaret Hale would wake up to face what she'd broken, or never face anything again. If you've ever waited for someone to survive something they brought on themselves, subscribe, because sometimes the real surgery happens after the physical one ends. At Victoria's house, Uncle Robert came, home at noon. He looked at Lily with the same uncomfortable expression everyone used. "How's the girl doing?" he asked Victoria, as if Lily weren't standing right there. "Fine, quiet, no trouble so far. Let's hope it stays that way." They spoke about her like she was a weather pattern. Unpredictable, potentially disruptive. Lily sat at the kitchen table eating the sandwich Victoria had made, and said nothing. She'd learned that silence was armor. At 2 o'clock, Victoria's phone rang. Lily's head snapped up. Victoria looked at the screen, then at Lily. "It's the hospital." Time stopped. Victoria answered, her face unreadable. "Yes, this is Victoria Hale. Yes, I see. When? And her condition?" "I understand. Thank you." She hung up. Lily's hands gripped the edge of the table. "Well?" Uncle Robert asked. Victoria turned to Lily with an expression that could have meant anything. "The surgery is over." Lily's breath caught. "Is she?" "She's alive." Relief flooded through Lily so intensely she thought she might fall off the chair. "But," Victoria continued, "there were complications. She's in recovery, but it's critical. They won't know the full extent for another 24 hours. Critical." The word hung in the air like a threat. "Can I see her?" Lily asked. "Children aren't allowed in intensive care." "But, no buts, Lily. We'll visit when she's moved to a regular room. If she's moved to a regular room. If." That night, Lily lay in the guest room, unable to sleep. She thought about Margaret, alone in a hospital bed, connected to machines, hovering between life and something else. She thought about their last conversation, about the distance, about all the things left unsaid. She thought about the backpack under Margaret's bed, and the note that had started this collapse. And she wondered if Margaret was thinking about her too, or if people under anesthesia dreamed at all. At 3 a.m, Lily made a decision. She got out of bed, found paper and a pen in the desk drawer, and began to write. Not a note this time. A letter. To the grandmother, who might never read it. Saturday morning arrived with news. Victoria's phone rang at 8. This time her expression changed. She hung up and looked at Lily. "She's awake." Lily's heart soared. "But," Victoria hesitated, and just like that, hope cracked. "But what?" "The doctor wants to speak. With family. About her prognosis. About what comes next." What comes next? The words every child dreads. Because what comes next is adult code for everything's about to change. Will Margaret recover? Or has the surgery only bought her borrowed time? What did Lily write in that letter she's too afraid to send? And what will the doctor say that Victoria doesn't want Lily to hear? Victoria left Lily at the house when she went to meet the doctor. "This is adult business," she said simply. Lily sat on the guest room bed, the letter she'd written clutched in her hands, and waited. The clock on the wall ticked with cruel precision. 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30. Each minute felt like evidence of something going wrong. At the hospital, Victoria sat across from Dr. Harrison in a sterile consultation room. "Margaret survived the surgery," he began, "but the recovery will be extensive. The mass was more invasive than we anticipated. We had to remove more tissue than planned. Will she fully recover?" Dr. Harrison folded his hands. "Physically, with time and proper care, yes. But she'll need months of rest, no stress, no physical exertion, constant supervision." "How long?" Minimum 3 months, possibly 6. Victoria's expression tightened. That's impossible. I have a life, doctor. A job. I can't provide round-the-clock care. What about the child? Lily. What about her? She could help. Simple tasks. Companionship. Victoria's laugh was hollow. She's 8 years old. And frankly, she's part of the stress that put Margaret here in the first place. Dr. Harrison's jaw tensed. I don't think that's... You don't know the situation. Victoria cut him off. That child is damaged. Her mother had severe depression. Margaret's been shouldering an impossible burden alone. Margaret's condition has nothing to do with Lily. Everything has to do with Lily, Victoria said coldly. Margaret lied about being pregnant because she couldn't face reality. She created this chaos, and now someone has to clean it up. The doctor studied Victoria carefully. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that Margaret needs professional care, and Lily needs stability, real stability, not whatever circus Margaret's been running. You want to separate them. It wasn't a question. Victoria didn't flinch. I want what's best for everyone involved. Back at the house, Lily heard the front door open. She ran downstairs, the letter still in her hand. Victoria stood in the entryway, removing her coat with mechanical precision. How is she? Lily asked immediately. Alive. Stable. Relief washed over Lily. Can I see her? Not yet. She needs rest. When? Victoria hung her coat. We'll see. We'll see. Adult code for probably never. Aunt Victoria, please. I need to see her. I need to tell her. Tell her what, Lily? Victoria's voice was sharp. That you're sorry? That you love her? Words won't change her medical condition. Lily stepped back as if slapped. Your grandmother is going to need extensive care, Victoria continued. Months of recovery. She can't provide for you during that time. The floor beneath Lily's feet felt unstable. What does that mean? Victoria sat on the couch, gesturing for Lily to sit across from her. Lily didn't move. It means we need to make difficult decisions, adult decisions. I can take care of her, Lily said quickly. I can help. I can cook simple meals. You're 8 years old. I'm responsible. Lily. Victoria's tone ended the argument. This isn't negotiable. Your grandmother lied to you, lied to everyone, and put herself in a position where she can no longer care for you properly. That's not true. It is true. And now adults need to fix what she broke. The words echoed what Victoria had said 3 nights ago. The conversation Lily had overheard. This was always the plan. If you've ever watched someone use a crisis to get what they always wanted, subscribe, because some people see disasters as opportunities. There's a school, Victoria said. Lakewood Academy. It's a boarding school 2 hours north. Excellent reputation, structure, discipline, everything you need. Boarding school. The words from that night. You're sending me away. We're giving you stability. I don't want stability. I want my grandmother. Victoria's expression hardened. What you want is irrelevant, Lily. You're a child. Children don't make these decisions. Does Grandma know? Silence. Does she know you're sending me away? She will. When she's strong enough to understand it's for the best. Lily's hands shook. The letter crumpled in her grip. I won't go. Victoria stood. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. I'll tell the doctors. I'll tell them I want to stay with Grandma. You'll what? Victoria's voice turned cold. Make her recovery harder? Stress her out? Put her back in the hospital? The guilt hit exactly as intended. Lily's protest died in her throat. That's what I thought, Victoria said. Now the school has an opening next week. We'll get your paperwork sorted and you'll start fresh. New environment, new people, a chance to be normal. Normal, as if Lily's abnormality was the problem. What about my things? My mom's photograph? You can bring personal items, within reason, controlled. Even in grief. Lily turned and walked upstairs without another word. In the guest room, she sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not because she was going to boarding school, but because Margaret would wake up, ask for her, and find her gone. And Victoria would tell her it was for the best. And Margaret, weak and guilty, might actually believe it. Lily looked at the letter in her hands. The words she'd written at 3 a.m. Words about forgiveness, about understanding, about wanting to start over. Words that didn't matter anymore. She tore the letter into small pieces and let them fall like snow around her feet. Some conversations happened too late, and some never happened at all. At the hospital, Margaret drifted in and out of consciousness. During a lucid moment, she asked the nurse a question. "My granddaughter, Lily, is she here?" The nurse checked the visitor log. "No family has visited yet, Mrs. Hale, but I'm sure they will soon." Margaret closed her eyes. She'd survived the surgery, but something told her she'd already lost what mattered most. On Monday morning, Victoria drove Lily to Lakewood Academy, 2 hours north, 2 hours away from the only person Lily had left. The building was imposing. Stone walls, iron gates, uniformed students moving in organized lines. Victoria walked Lily to the admissions office, signed papers, and turned to leave. "Wait," Lily said. Victoria paused. "Tell her," Lily's voice cracked. "Tell Grandma I'm sorry for everything." Victoria's expression softened for just a moment. Then it was gone. "I'll tell her you're where you need to be." She left. Lily stood alone in a hallway full of strangers, holding a suitcase that contained everything she had left. No photograph. Victoria had said it wasn't appropriate. No stuffed bear. Too childish. Just clothes, books, emptiness. A teacher approached with a clipboard and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be Lily Hale. Welcome to Lakewood." Will Margaret ever find out that Lily didn't choose to leave? How long before Lily stops waiting for someone to come get her? And what will happen when Margaret finally learns the truth about where her silence led? Margaret woke on Tuesday afternoon to find her hospital room empty. 4 days post-surgery, and not a single visitor. The nurse who checked her vitals wore an expression Margaret couldn't read. "Has anyone called?" Margaret asked, her voice weak. "Your sister-in-law calls daily for updates," the nurse said carefully. "And my granddaughter?" The nurse busied herself with the IV drip. "I'll let your family know you're more alert now." She left quickly, too quickly. Margaret stared at the ceiling, counting the tiles, counting the minutes, counting the reasons why Lily hadn't come. Maybe Victoria wouldn't let her. Maybe children weren't allowed in recovery wards. Maybe Lily was still too angry to care. That last thought hurt more than the surgical incisions. At Lakewood Academy, Lily sat in a classroom learning algebra she didn't understand with students who didn't know her name. The teacher's voice was distant, muffled, like listening underwater. "Miss Hale, are you paying attention?" Lily looked up. 20 pairs of eyes stared at her. "Yes, ma'am." A lie so automatic it required no thought. "Then solve the equation on the board." Lily stood, walked to the front, picked up the chalk, and stared at numbers that might as well have been hieroglyphics. She wrote random numbers. Wrong, obviously. "Sit down, Miss Hale. See me after class." Lily returned to her desk, feeling nothing. At lunch, she sat alone at the end of a long table. Other girls whispered. She caught fragments. Grandmother scandal. Pregnant at 60. No wonder they sent her here. Lily ate her sandwich mechanically, tasting nothing. In the afternoon, she met with Ms. Whitmore, the school counselor, in an office that smelled like lavender and false concern. "How are you adjusting, Lily?" "Fine." That word again. "I understand you've been through significant trauma. Your mother's death, your grandmother's illness." Lily said nothing. "It's okay to feel confused, angry, lost." "I don't feel anything." Ms. Whitmore wrote something in her notes. "That's a common defense mechanism. Or maybe there's nothing left to feel." The counselor's pen paused. "You're very articulate for your age. My grandmother taught me to use my words." Lily's voice was flat. "She just forgot to teach me that words don't matter when nobody's listening." Ms. Whitmore shifted uncomfortably. "Your aunt mentioned you might be resistant to help. My aunt wants me to disappear. She's getting what she wants." Why would I resist? That's not— Can I go now? I have homework. Ms. Whitmore sighed. Yes, but Lily, we're here if you need us. Another lie adults tell children. Lily left without responding. Wednesday afternoon, Victoria finally visited Margaret. She arrived with flowers and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're looking better, Victoria said, arranging the bouquet on the windowsill. Where's Lily? Margaret asked immediately. Victoria's hands stilled. She's fine. Settled. Settled where? At school. What school? She goes to Jefferson Elementary. Victoria turned slowly. Not anymore. Margaret's heart rate monitor beeped faster. What did you do? What you couldn't. I made the hard choice. Victoria sat in the visitor's chair. Lily is at Lakewood Academy, a boarding school. She started Monday. The room tilted. You sent her away? I gave her stability. You had no right. You were unconscious, Margaret. Someone had to make decisions. And frankly, you weren't making good ones even when you were conscious. Margaret tried to sit up, but pain shot through her abdomen. She's 8 years old. She just lost her mother. She needs family, not strangers. She needs structure. She needs to not be burdened with your recovery. I did what was best. Best for who? Victoria's mask slipped. For everyone. You can't care for her right now. I won't sacrifice my life to clean up your mess. This was the only solution. If you've ever watched someone justify cruelty as kindness, subscribe. Because Margaret is about to realize how much her silence cost. Does Lily know this was your decision? Margaret asked quietly. She knows she's where she needs to be. That's not what I asked. Victoria stood. What you ask is irrelevant now. It's done. Lily will thank us eventually. Us? Margaret's voice rose despite the pain. There is no us. This was you. You created this situation. Get out. Victoria blinked. Excuse me? Get out of my room, now. Margaret, you're being irrational. I'm being clear for the first time in months. You took my granddaughter and sent her away because she was inconvenient. You used my illness as an excuse to do what you always wanted. Now get out before I call security. Victoria's face hardened. Fine. But you'll realize I'm right. You can't care for that child. You couldn't even take care of yourself. She left, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Margaret lay back, tears streaming down her face. She'd survived surgery only to discover she'd lost everything that mattered. That evening, a nurse found Margaret trying to get out of bed. Mrs. Hale, you can't— I need to see my granddaughter. You're not cleared for discharge. You could rupture— I don't care. I need to get Lily. The nurse pressed the call button. Dr. Harrison to room 347. Patient in distress. Within minutes, they sedated Margaret. Her last conscious thought was Lily's name. At Lakewood, Lily lay in her narrow dormitory bed, staring at the ceiling. Her roommate, a girl named Sarah, the cruelty of that name wasn't lost on Lily, snored softly across the room. Lily wondered if Margaret was awake yet, if she'd asked for her, if Victoria had told her the truth or some sanitized version of it. She wondered if Margaret even cared enough to fight, or if the surgery had given her an easy out, a medical excuse to let Lily disappear like everyone wanted. Thursday morning, Margaret convinced Dr. Harrison to let her make a phone call. She dialed Lakewood Academy with shaking hands. I need to speak with Lily Hale. She's a student there. I'm sorry, students aren't allowed. Students aren't. Phone calls during school hours you can schedule. I'm her grandmother. I'm in the hospital. I need to speak with her now. The receptionist's voice softened. I understand, but policy— Please. Margaret's voice broke. Please. Just tell her I called. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I'm coming to get her as soon as I can. A long pause. I'll make a note in her file. Will you tell her? I'll make a note. The line went dead. Margaret closed her eyes. Making a note wasn't the same as delivering a message, and delivering a message wasn't the same as keeping a promise. But it was all she had. Will Margaret recover in time to bring Lily home? Has Lily already decided that home doesn't exist anymore? And what happens when they finally face each other after everything that's been broken between them? 3 weeks passed in parallel isolation. Margaret progressed through physical therapy with mechanical determination. Each step hurt. Each breath reminded her of what she'd lost. The nurses said she was recovering remarkably well. She felt like she was dying. At Lakewood, Lily had stopped counting days. Monday looked like Tuesday looked like Wednesday. Uniform, classes, silence, sleep. She'd become what the school wanted: compliant, quiet, invisible, perfect. Ms. Whitmore noted in her file, student adjusting well, no behavioral concerns. What she didn't note: Lily had stopped eating breakfast. She completed assignments with robotic precision, but couldn't recall a single thing she'd learned. She woke up every night at exactly 2:17, the time Margaret had found her backpack, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Adjustment looked a lot like slow disappearance. On a Thursday afternoon, a girl named Emma sat next to Lily at lunch. "You're the one with the pregnant grandma, right?" Lily didn't look up from her uneaten food. She wasn't really pregnant. "Oh." Emma processed this. "That's weird." "Yeah. Is that why you're here?" "Probably." Emma waited for more, but Lily offered nothing else. After a moment, Emma left. Lily sat alone again, exactly as she preferred. Because alone meant safe, and safe meant not having to explain things she didn't understand herself. Meanwhile, Margaret sat in Dr. Harrison's office for her 3-week follow-up. "Physically, you're healing well," he said, reviewing her charts. "But I'm concerned about your mental state. I need to get my granddaughter back." "I understand. But Margaret, you're not ready for the stress of—" "I'm ready." Dr. Harrison set down the clipboard. "Legally, Victoria has temporary guardianship. Overturning that requires—" "I don't care what it requires. Tell me what I need to do." He studied her carefully. "Prove you can care for Lily. Physically, emotionally, financially. The court will want to see stability." "How long?" "Realistically, 2 months minimum. You need to complete recovery, show you have support systems in place. Demonstrate. 2 months. Margaret's voice cracked. "She'll think I abandoned her. Then you need to communicate with her. Write letters. Call the school." "I've tried calling. They won't put her on the phone." "Keep trying. Document every attempt. It shows intent." Margaret nodded, but despair settled in her chest like concrete. 2 months. Might as well be forever to an 8-year-old who'd already been abandoned once. That evening, Margaret wrote her first letter. "Dear Lily, I know you probably hate me. I know I've given you every reason to. The surgery is over. I'm recovering. But the hardest part isn't the physical pain. It's knowing you're somewhere thinking I chose this, that I let Victoria send you away. I didn't choose this, Lily. And I'm fighting to bring you home. I know words are cheap. I know I've used them to lie before. But these words are different. I'm coming for you. Please wait for me. Love. Grandma." She mailed it the next morning. It arrived at Lakewood on Monday. The receptionist placed it in Lily's mailbox with the other unclaimed letters, mostly promotional materials and school announcements. Lily walked past her mailbox every day without checking it. She'd learned that waiting for messages from people who'd let you down was a special kind of torture. If you've ever written words you weren't sure would be read, subscribe. Because sometimes the cruelest distance isn't physical, it's emotional. On Tuesday, Margaret attended her first court-mandated therapy session. The therapist, Dr. Chen, was younger than Margaret expected and uncomfortably perceptive. "Tell me why you lied to Lily about being pregnant." Margaret had prepared answers, rational explanations, justifications. But sitting in that chair, none of them felt true. "I was scared," she said finally. "My daughter died. Because I didn't protect her. I couldn't fail Lily the same way. So I tried to control everything. And I ended up losing her anyway." "Control is often fear in disguise," Dr. Chen said gently. "I know that now. Do you? Or do you just know you should know it?" The question landed like a punch. Margaret sat in silence. What are you most afraid of? Dr. Chen asked. That Lily will never forgive me. And if she doesn't? Margaret's hands trembled. Then I'll have failed 2 generations. And there won't be a third chance. Dr. Chen wrote something in her notes. Recovery isn't just physical, Margaret. You need to recover from the person you were, the one who chose silence over honesty, control over connection. I don't know how. You start by being honest, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Margaret left that session feeling stripped bare, but maybe that was the point. At Lakewood, Lily failed her first test, not because she didn't know the material, but because she couldn't bring herself to care about the material. What did algebra matter when nothing else did? Her teacher, Mr. Peterson, asked her to stay after class. This isn't like you, Lily. Your previous school records show you're an excellent student. Lily stared at her hands. Maybe I was a different person then. You're the same person. No. Lily looked up. That person had a grandmother. That person had hope. I don't know what I have now. Mr. Peterson's expression softened. You have potential. You have... Please don't, Lily stood. Please don't tell me what I have when you don't know what I've lost. She left before he could respond. That night, Emma knocked on Lily's door during free period. There's mail for you, in your box. I saw it when I got mine. Lily's heart jumped. Then she controlled it. Probably just school stuff. It looked like a letter, handwritten. I'll get it later. But Emma didn't leave. Are you waiting for someone to write you? The question was too direct, too real. No. My parents don't write me either, Emma said quietly. They're too busy, but I still check, just in case. She left. Lily sat alone with the knowledge that there was a letter downstairs, maybe from Margaret, maybe an apology, maybe an explanation, or maybe just another lie dressed in better words. She didn't go downstairs that night, or the next morning, or the next evening. The letter sat unclaimed, because Lily had decided something important. Reading it would mean hoping, and hope had become too expensive. 3 days later, Margaret wrote a second letter, shorter this time. Lily, I don't know if you're reading these, but I'm going to keep writing, because silence is what broke us, and silence won't be what keeps us broken. I'm sorry. I'm fighting. I'm not giving up. Grandma. The second letter joined the first in Lily's unchecked mailbox. Will Lily ever read the letters that might save them both? Can Margaret rebuild herself in time to bring Lily home? And what happens when the person you're trying to save has already learned to survive without you? 6 weeks after surgery, Margaret stood outside Lakewood Academy. She'd been medically cleared 3 days earlier. She'd hired a lawyer 2 weeks before that. She'd fought Victoria in court and won temporary custody back. The legal documents in her hands felt like weapons and shields at once. But none of it mattered if Lily refused to come home. The headmistress, Mrs. Caldwell, met her in the administration office. Mrs. Hale, we've been expecting you. Where is she? In class, but before we retrieve her, we should discuss Lily's adjustment. Margaret's stomach dropped. What about it? Mrs. Caldwell opened a file. She's compliant, quiet, academically functional but emotionally withdrawn. She doesn't check her mail, doesn't make friends, doesn't ask about family. She had mail. 7 letters, unclaimed. 7 letters Margaret had written, 7 attempts Lily had ignored. Can I see her now? Mrs. Caldwell hesitated. Mrs. Hale, I need you to understand. This child has built walls. Removing her from Lakewood might feel like another abandonment to her. She's found safety and routine here. Safety? Margaret's voice hardened. Or surrender. The headmistress had no answer for that. They walked to classroom 3B. Through the window, Margaret saw her. Lily sat in the 3rd row, staring at a textbook with empty eyes. She looked smaller than Margaret remembered. Thinner, older somehow. Mrs. Caldwell knocked and entered. Miss Hale? Please gather your things. Someone's here for you. Lily looked up, saw Margaret through the doorway, and went completely still. No joy, no anger, no reaction at all. She packed her notebook with mechanical precision and walked to the door. "Hi, Grandma." 2 words. Flat. Emotionless. Margaret's heart shattered. "Hi, sweetheart, I came to bring you home." "Okay." That was all. They walked to Lily's dormitory in silence. Margaret tried conversation. "How have your classes been?" "Fine." "Have you made any friends?" "No." "Are you angry with me?" Lily stopped walking and looked at Margaret directly. "I'm not angry, I'm nothing. Being angry requires caring. I stopped caring." The words were delivered without malice. Just fact. Margaret felt tears building but forced them back. In the dormitory, Lily packed with the same mechanical efficiency. Everything folded, everything organized, nothing wasted. "You wrote me letters," Lily said suddenly. 7 of them. "I know. I didn't read them." "Why not?" Lily zipped her suitcase. "Because words don't fix things. You taught me that. If watching 2 people who love each other fail to connect breaks your heart, subscribe, because sometimes coming home is harder than leaving." Margaret drove them back in silence. The Connecticut landscape passed by. Trees, houses, the familiar roads Lily had traveled her whole life. Everything looked the same. Everything felt different. At the house, Lily walked to her old room without being told. Margaret followed. "Lily, I know you don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. I fought to bring you home. I went to court. I fired Victoria as guardian. I proved I could take care of you." Lily set her suitcase on the bed. "You proved it to a judge. Not to me. Then what do I need to prove to you?" Lily turned slowly. "That you won't do it again. That the next time things get hard, you won't lie. You won't disappear. You won't let someone else decide I'm too much trouble." "I won't. You don't know that. People don't change, Grandma. They just get better at hiding who they really are." Margaret sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of everything crushing her. "You're right. I can't promise I won't make mistakes, but I can promise I won't lie to protect myself anymore. I can promise honesty even when it's ugly." Lily unpacked silently. "There's something else," Margaret said. "I've been seeing a therapist, Dr. Chen, and I want you to see someone too. Not because you're broken, but because what happened to us was traumatic. And trauma doesn't heal in silence. I don't want to talk to strangers." Neither did I, but I had to, because I realized I didn't know how to talk about real things. I only knew how to control things. Lily paused, holding one of her folded shirts. "What did you tell the therapist?" "The truth. That I failed your mother. That I failed you. That I confused protection with control. That my silence cost you your childhood." For the first time, Lily's mask cracked. "Mom used to say that too. That nobody listened." "I know. And then she died. And you did the same thing. You didn't listen to me, you just managed me." Margaret nodded. "I did. And I'm sorry. That apology won't erase what happened. But it's true." Lily sat on the bed, still holding the shirt. "I heard you, the night of the surgery, when you were trying to get out of bed to come get me." Margaret's breath caught. "How?" "The nurse told Ms. Whitmore. Ms. Whitmore told me. She thought it would make me feel better." "Did it?" "No, it made me angry, because if you wanted me that badly, why did you let Victoria take me in the first place?" The question had no good answer. "Because I was weak," Margaret said finally. "Because I was unconscious when she made the decision, and when I woke up, she'd already done it, but that's not an excuse. I should have fought harder from the beginning. I should have never created a situation where she had that power." Lily was quiet for a long moment. "I wrote you a letter too," she said. "The night before your surgery. I was going to give it to you when you woke up. But then Victoria sent me away, so I tore it up." "What did it say?" "That I forgave you. That I understood why you lied. That I wanted to start over." Margaret's tears finally fell. "Do you still feel that way?" "I don't know. I'm too tired to know what I feel." They sat together. In the quiet room, 2 people who loved each other but didn't know how to close the distance. "I'm not going to tell you everything will be okay," Margaret said. because I don't know if it will be. But I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to tell you the truth, even when it's hard. And I'm going to listen, really listen, even when what you say hurts. Lily looked at her grandmother, this woman who'd tried so hard and failed so completely. Okay, one word. Not forgiveness, not trust. Just, okay. It was a start. That night, at dinner, they sat across from each other. Margaret had made spaghetti. Simple, imperfect, nothing like the elaborate meals she used to prepare. It's not very good, Margaret admitted. It's fine, Lily said. Then she took a bite and made a face. Actually, it's pretty bad. Margaret laughed. Actually laughed, and for just a second Lily almost smiled. Lily. 6 months later, they were still learning. Margaret attended therapy. Lily attended therapy. Sometimes they attended together. The house was messier now, less controlled, more real. Lily checked her mail. Margaret asked questions and waited for answers, even uncomfortable ones. They fought. Sometimes. Real fights. About boundaries. About honesty. About trust. But they didn't fight in silence anymore. One evening, Lily found the torn pieces of her old letter in a box she'd forgotten about. She spread them on her desk and tried to piece them back together. Some sections were too damaged to read, but one sentence remained intact. I forgive you, but I won't forget. Because forgetting is how patterns repeat. Margaret found her there, reading her own words. Do you still mean it? Margaret asked. I'm working on it. Margaret sat beside her. That's all I can ask. What Margaret didn't say, that working on it was harder than achieving it, that some wounds heal crooked, that trust once broken never quite fits back together the same way, but crooked healing was still healing, and imperfect love was still love. Years later, Lily would tell this story, not as a tragedy, but as a warning. She'd end it the same way every time. Children don't need perfect adults. They need honest ones. And sometimes the deepest wounds come from homes that look perfect on the outside but are silent on the inside. Did Margaret and Lily fully heal? Or did they just learn to live with the scars? Can trust be rebuilt, or does it just become something different? More fragile, more precious, more real? And when you finally learn to be honest, is it too late? Or is honesty itself the beginning of something new?